Welcome to our Fireside chat, everyone. I'm Aaron Kessler. I'm your host. I am a filmmaker in the great state of Nebraska. With me is my new co-host, Alejandro Rodriguez, and then Michael Snellen, our founder of Sacred Heart Christian Creators. And today with us, we have Matthew Sawczyn. Am I pronouncing your last name right, Matthew?
That was perfect. Well done.
Sawczyn. Is it Polish by any chance?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm part Polish along with a whole bunch of other things.
My condolences.
Alejandro and I know someone who is actually temporarily moving to Poland for a while to study his ancestry there. So that's pretty cool. Matthew is a writer, and today we're going to be learning more about him, what he does, what kind of advice he might have for other aspiring writers, and then wherever else our paths may lead us. So Matthew, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is you do, and maybe your background, anything else you'd like to share.
Thank you. It's an honor, a privilege to be with you guys. When I got your text, I was very humbled. Like you said, Aaron, I'm a Catholic screenwriter and author. I've worked in LA, Chicago, and now I live in Denver. And I just try and create great stories, and they're always infused with the Catholic worldview. Just trying to put good art into the world.
So my question to you, Matt, is was there ever a lightning rod moment, I want to be a writer? Was there ever a moment where you thought that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life? Can you give me an example if you do?
I think it was more of a gradual realization. You always hear the typical things from a lot of creative people, we put on plays with my siblings, or we shot, home videos in my backyard. And those things happened that. That was part of my childhood too. But I don't think it was until I got into college and I started noticing the things that I gravitated towards. And people would talk about movies, or after watching a movie, when I discussed it with other people, it was everyone could be interested, everyone likes a good movie. But I noticed that I really wanted to break it down, and I really wanted to dive into shots or really powerful moments. And other people was just oh yeah, that was nice. It's so that it wasn't. I realized that I sort of had a passion for that art form, and then that led me to going to film school. And then it was at film school. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. You go in and you're maybe I'll be a director, maybe I'll be an actor, maybe I'll work the whole plethora of jobs, editing, lighting, whatever, craft. And it was in the writing classes that I really noticed that I loved it. I was pretty good at it. And it was what I really found moved me. And so that was kind of and then at that point I was okay, this is going to be the direction that I'm going to focus on.
Yeah. So what is your favorite part about the writing process when you decide, okay, I'm going to write a screenplay? What comes first, the story, the structure, or do you kind of figure things out as you're writing? Tell us.
I'll tell you what doesn't come first: the paycheck does not come first. A great story can start from a whole, host of different places. Sometimes someone will come to me. A lot of times, a producer will have an idea, or a real account that they read on Wikipedia or something, and they really want to bring that to life. And so then it's my job to be a steward and a servant, and try and help their vision come to life. Other times it'll be something that I've been mulling over for years, something I read or a book that I really like that I want to see adapted. Yeah, they can come from anywhere. You can just be sitting and an idea can strike you. I mean, I remember J.K. Rowling especially. She said she was just sitting on a train and like the characters like appeared in her head. They just like walked the train, and so like it just like struck her as. But yeah, I do draw a lot of my stories come from like historical fiction, different time periods that you'd like to see kind of fleshed out.
Do you have a favorite time period to write in?
I think I jump around. Actually, I'll say the opposite. I have a lot of favorites. I just helped a producer with a Swiss Guard movie, so hopefully that's in funding right now. So hopefully they get the funds to start production. Yeah, like I'll do everything. I've written a Saint Joseph movie. Right now I'm working on a Cortez script, so like the Aztec period. So I just do anything, whatever needs to be put to paper.
I always admire those who adapt, write screenplay adaptations of like previous like novels or even period pieces, because it seems like there's so many moving parts that you have to get right. Like with period pieces, there's a lot of research and historical data that you have to not only get right, but also creatively incorporate into the script. So that's I'm in awe when you do, because I will never write adaptation or historical.
It always takes a team. It's always a ton of people that work together.
Yeah.
Do you typically work with multiple people?
I mean, it depends on each script, but sometimes I'll write with partners. A lot of times, though, even if you're solo, unless you are backing the whole thing, you're always going to have somebody. So you do have a boss that will read your writing and then give you notes and give their thoughts. And you might have 12 bosses. So there are always lots of cooks in the kitchen with filmmaking.
So Matthew, I wanted to kind of like stick with the period pieces for a little bit, because I know that as somebody who has worked with a couple of Hollywood producers already, it's very difficult because period pieces not only cost money, but like it's very difficult to get them funded and even like and even get them noticed by a mainstream audience. So could you tell us some struggles when it comes to producing a movie of that kind of level?
Yeah. I'll start with the positive. I mean, I think the reason that we see a lot of those films and the reason that people continue to make them is because real history is always interesting, and you do start with some familiarity. That's if you're just an audience member, you hear about a George Washington movie, like it already piques your interest. You already know something about what to expect.
Sure.
But like you said, the challenges are, you kind of have to, you got to create your own world from scratch, basically, and really try and match what it was like. So that takes a lot of production money.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other challenge that's kind of under the surface is trying to do the story justice and trying to get into the mindset of people at a certain time, but also, trying to make it come alive, because these weren't like stuffy pages in a history book. Like, these were real people. They had real emotions. They were us. Like they were the exact same. They just happened to live a couple hundred years difference. And so trying to make the stories like really pop, that's kind of where the magic can happen.
So on that note, would you say it's more important for films to be entertaining or to carry a message?
I think carry a message might turn people off with like that phrase. Sure. But I do think that they should be meaningful. Like, I think
right.
It doesn't mean everything has to be super serious, But I think if you're going to dedicate and your soul to consuming something, to receiving a story,
Sure.
I think it should be, it should ultimately point you towards the good. So I would say that probably the second one is I mean, they're both important. If it's not entertaining, then you're just going to check out. It does, it has to be worth your while.
Oh, in terms of screenwriting, well, do you have anybody that you follow closely? Like, I want to write like this person, or I want to write like that other person. Who do you draw inspiration from, like as a fellow writer?
It's a good question. I think first and foremost, I would tell anyone who's aspiring to any form of art to to study and to absorb as much as they can. So I know like Werner Herzog, he always in his interviews he's like read, 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 read. So that being said, I watch a lot of different people from all sorts of different backgrounds. I think some filmmakers that I really connect with, the Taylor Sheridan stuff. I grew up in Texas, so I just happen to love that setting a lot.
Sure.
Especially this Frontier trilogy, I really like topics that he delves into and kind of the way that he that it's not all so clear cut. Like it's all nuance.
What are your thoughts on the kind of the balance, the tug of war between conventional standards or in style standards and diversity of style? If that make any sense? Like for example, what are your thoughts on, for example, conventionality versus like maybe experimentalism? What I'm trying to say is throughout history, there have often been like dominant styles in force. But obviously a new style had to come along. New styles always came along to like take over and become the next new style. Think like first like painting and music. First we had the Baroque era, and then it gave way to the classical era, and then the Romantic era. And I think if I was to say like once the studio system came apart, when was that? Like in the 70s, I think. Kind of studios. You saw a lot more independent films pop up. And then I think was it in the 2000s, kind of the studios came back in, like especially with like the Marvel, so what are your thoughts on like if for example, if you're a young screenwriter and you're trying to find your voice, how much should you let that voice be dictated by what the in style norms are, and how much should you like cultivate your own artistic vision and be true to that? Like how do you find like a balance between that? Because it sounds like you have to, in your day-to-day life, you probably write you have certain guidelines you have to follow because you're doing client work, right? So but at the same time, I'm sure you have your own like artistic voice of some kind. So like can you speak like a little bit to the balance and the tug of war between that?
Can I maybe let me tweak that a little bit if you don't mind, Aaron? Is that okay?
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, like Matthew, what would you rather try to blend in with the mainstream, or would you want to be? I'm Matthew Sawczyn, and I want to make a Matthew Sawczyn screenplay.
I don't know if we want him to answer that question on air with his clients.
I just,
but that is definitely the more concise way of saying that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think you have to do both. I mean, if you're doing client work, but Matthew, I want to hear from you. Like, what are your ruminations on the dance between artistic vision and?
Don't mind us ending your career or anything. It's fine.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. I think you guys landed on it in the question. Usually, it's a good balance. I mean, I think sometimes it's really fun to realize that you're watching a movie, and if you have someone who's really got like a very strong style, then that can be entertaining. But there's also a beauty to like, an incredible like immersive film, and you kind of forget that you're even watching.
Sure.
Like I just watched Triumph of the Heart by my friend Anthony. And I mean, it's just an incredible period piece, a historical account, but he was able to add kind of his own like artistic visual style to it. And if you watch the movie, you'll know what I mean, because there's very striking imagery. Even within a World War II history movie. So I mean, and everyone will find their voice as they go along, as you keep doing it and keep practicing. You're like a musician. You'll find the way that you like to play.
Yeah, for sure. I think that as a fellow screenwriter myself, one thing that I kind of like had to remember is like there's a lot of things that I want to say, but it's just hard to figure out how to say it because there's a lot of different things that go into a film. And one thing I talked to Aaron when we first got into an interview for the Fireside chat was the movie that you write is going to be different from the movie that you direct, and the movie that you direct is going to be very different from the movie that you edit. And those things could have three very different messages, or they could all say the same thing, but it's really hard to choose which message that you want to send overall. Like, you as a writer, and you're kind of like told by a producer, I want to make this kind of movie. And you're like, okay, well, here's what I can contribute to it. And then you want to avoid putting too much of your own voice, but then you don't want the message from the original script to get lost in the mix somewhere. How would you as a writer kind of mitigate that to kind of make sure that you like the original intention that the producer or you as a writer as well, what would you say is your process of making sure that the message still gets across?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like especially if somebody is starting out, when it's a very collaborative art form, and when you collaborate with somebody, you're kind of signing up for what makes them great and what their personal
Sure.
quirks are and things like that. So I wouldn't try and hide your voice at all. I mean, if you're working with somebody and you have a very distinctive thing that you're passionate about, feel free to make that known. I'd say usually it's what's really helpful, because like you said, there's 3 times that a film gets made: when it's written, when it's shot, when it's edited. That's why that's why having a good producer is always so helpful, because they'll hopefully bring the cohesive vision. And then every step of the way, you're always asking, is this the vision that we all signed up for? It's a group project, to put it in school terms. Like you're always trying to shoot for, hopefully the same goalpost. So it is very important for everyone to kind of get on the same page, and but also to bring what makes them special to the table. So I see that all the time with all sorts of departments. Like if you're a costume designer, you don't try and subdue what makes you special. Like you bring all your A game. Same with the writers, same with cinematographer, the director, and the actors. They're all bringing something and contributing. And then hopefully when you combine all those voices, they can make a nice chorus. To use another analogy, you shoot for one thing, but there are parts of each that contributes to the whole. And for writers, I mean, nobody's going to read the screenplay at the end of the day, so that's kind of a weight off our back. Like, you put it out there, and like somebody will make it, and then that's all they care about.
So I would ask, one of our big questions is, what kind of advice would you have to someone who wants to be a screenwriter like you, someone who's just starting out? What would you say to them? What should they know before they, as they're forging their new path?
Yeah, I mean, I would parrot what I heard from others before me, which is like, if you want to make art, just start making art. Read and watch a bunch of things. You're going to learn from the greats. And you can find screenplays online. and you can see how other people have done it, and how it translates. Because a screenplay, as much as I like to read them, they're not a final product. They're not like a novel. Like you use a screenplay, and it's like a roadmap to get to your movie. So they are a little bit different sometimes than what you think when you see the final movie. So I would tell somebody who wants to be a screenwriter, read a ton of screenplays and see how they got there, and then find a group of people who are as passionate as you about making art. No investor is going to swoop out of the heavens and just make your vision come to life. If you want to make movies, if you want to be a painter, if you want to put out an album, like, you just got to start doing it. And movies are hard. They're challenging because it usually takes a team of, a dozen at least people in your city. Find somebody who likes to direct, or find people who like to act. I mean, Aaron, this firsthand. You get your group of people together, and then you can make something.
I don't know if you can call it a group. It's usually no more than like 2 or 3 people on a. Well, depends on the project. There were a couple of short films that I made that involved larger groups of people, but right now with Seraphic content, I'm just doing. It's usually just me and the actor. I've got the camera, and they're the actor. There was one time I was directing, and I had a director of photography and then the actor. That was kind of not a great situation.
That's kind of like a Roberto Rodriguez. He made this movie called Machete that basically launched his career. Made it for like $5,000 in the 80s or 90s. Mm-hmm. And he talked about how it was him and the camera guy, and then sometimes like the camera guy didn't show up, so it's just him and the main actor.
Yeah,
and he's like, hey,
but I think you speak to a good point in that, since the cavalry's not coming, I'm a big believer, and this is just the way I've been doing things, and I've seen someone's success with it. Is I think as a filmmaker, sometimes it's tempting to start with the big dream and the big vision, and that's actually how I started. My third film was a feature film, and then towards the end of it, I realized it was just too much for me to do at that time. But I think really, especially in the faith arena, you really have to start small and scrappy. Like, you really have to be like pragmatic about what it is you have to work with. And lean into that. Like, for example, I think one of the big reasons Seraphic content scene is the success it is, well, it's modest success right now, but it's more successful than pretty much anything else I've ever done. But unless you count the pieces I colored that won regional Emmys.
Yeah.
But one of the things I think that makes it work is it's so small scale. It's just so small. It's like the smallest scale you could ever do. But one might think that cramps your creativity. I don't think it does. It really just expands it. Yeah, I know that's kind of a cliche to say, is that those constraints really amplify your creativity, but I don't know. You can just really lean into it, and because it's so small scale, you can it's a lot easier to do well, to do right. Because I think if you start out by making a feature film, then there are so many more things that can go wrong.
Yep,
and you have to manage all of them. And you're a human being, so unless you're a genius and have the mitochondria of, I don't know, the Ubermensch, then you're not going to be able to cover all those, account for all those things that need to be accounted for, and they're going to fall through the cracks, and eventually your film is probably not going to be all that great. Now, I'm sure there's people out there who can do it, but my point is that if you're an emerging Catholic Christian artist and you don't have a lot of friends, you don't have a lot of money, it's the smaller scale really does have a beauty. And I think that's one of the ways you can really embrace the idea of the cavalry's not coming. You're more than likely not going to find a big investor to fund your feature length film if it's only your like third film ever.
Right.
So there's really beauty, I think. And it might be disheartening to, hear that and think, oh man, I wanted to make a feature. It's like, well, maybe you can still eventually, but there's no, like, you can still be creative and artistic. I'm getting long-winded now. I think I should stop, but
stop talking.
That's just really something that you touched on that I've thought about.
It's all good.
So,
It's all
yeah.
good.
What's your take?
That doesn't have to be the end, It's like, because hopefully you make more and more, and then you're building on that, get bigger and bigger. I mean, I think going back to Triumph of the Heart, like that was made. I know that was made first as a short film,
right? Which
I haven't seen. It was a short film for a competition, and then somebody saw that, and then they wanted to make that into a feature film. They can launch careers.
So, would it be accurate or even acceptable advice to tell somebody to just be themselves?
It'd be great to give me advice. You got to be a team player. So, people can take that however they want. If you're going to work in a big group with a lot of people, you do have to humble yourself sometimes and really help the group. But, at the same time, you're not a drone. The best part about working in the arts is you get all these passionate people who like bring so much joy and creativity together, and they, there's no filtering there. It's a magical thing when you get all these people like that together to make something.
Yeah.
So
go ahead,
Matthew. How has faith impacted your career, your vocation as an artist?
Oh, that's a good question. That's very much like a JP2 question.
And you went to JP2, right? I don't think we covered that.
I mean, I think it's the meaning behind everything. So, whether it's blatant on the screen or whether it's an undercurrent, I think my faith, imbues all the art that I make, and my family as well. I grew up in a big family, and I find that a lot of times those themes will emerge, even just organically. I'll write a lot of movies about family and the dynamics there, and the struggles and the grace. So, I mean, I think if you're a Christian or Catholic artist, I think, you don't have to make only religious stuff, but I think that the art that you make, has to be, at the end of the day, has to, help bring the kingdom to earth, which is kind of our whole prayer. So
help bring the kingdom to earth.
A little, exactly. Poke.
I need that on my wall somewhere. Help bring the kingdom to earth. I gotta put that like on top of my I don't know, on one of my photos on the wall, and just say, yeah, that's it. Help bring the kingdom to earth. That's quotable, honestly. Sounds like a writer wrote it.
I can't take credit. Jesus came up with that one.
For sure. Well, yeah. I mean, it's a nice paraphrase, though.
And I think that you made a good distinction there, that even if a screenplay doesn't look Catholic, even if there's not like saints and clergy and religious all over the place, even if it's just like a gritty story in the middle of an urban environment, then that can still be very Catholic in either its underguiding ethos or in the direction that it moves the viewer in. So even if that's one of the things I'm doing with Seraphic, even though that each microfilm, not everyone looks Catholic, but each one is always pointing in that direction, even if it doesn't get far enough for you to know that it's actually going in that direction. And I think I think it's a lot harder to recognize that sort of thing as still being a very Catholic endeavor, Catholic Christian endeavor. It's a lot harder to get support for it, I think, because at least from among our fellow Catholics, they'll be like, well, there's no sacred art, there's no stained glass, there's no cathedral in it, so how is this Catholic? There he is. It's just deep in the heart. It's not on the surface.
Well, Flannery O'Connor, nobody really liked anything she wrote. Like, to say, no, let's be honest. Like, there's like, I have one guy who like texted me. He's like, I couldn't get through Wise Blood without puking, and I was just like, well, that's the point. I mean, we're just so comfortable. Like, and then there's another movie I'm thinking about, A Hidden Life, where it says that we paint a comfortable Christ, but we never paint the true face of Christ. And we're just so like content, like, I mean, this is the reality of the punishment of sin. I mean, this is just truth as it really is. And I think that there's always those messages that make it essential. Like if we're ever writing something that's gritty, something that's uncomfortable, something that nobody really would want to watch on a good day, it's a movie that still needs to be made. So, I mean, that's just my 2 cents. Matthew, what would you say is like, why would you want to continue writing scripts, knowing that there's a bunch of different screenwriters that you have to compete with to get the attention of the public?
Yeah, well, it's not for the money, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I think if you ask any artist, there's almost an inexplicable pull.
Sure.
If that's what somebody's drawn to and meant to do, then they almost just can't put into words exactly why. It's like I just have to.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, I love that art form, and it's just incredible stories, and I think we all like to sit around the bonfire and bond over the different tales that we can tell. And yeah, I just want to be a part of that. It's really a great magical experience to write stories.
Nice.
I do it for fun anyways, so
Yeah.
might as well do what you love.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I say, Matthew, thank you so much for sharing with us, your experience and, your personal style and your words of wisdom. You're absolutely right. We got to bring the kingdom down and we have to share it with other people. I don't think that a lot of us really appreciate that this world is something that God has made perfect for each and every one of us. And this is probably the most perfect of worlds he's created for us, so that way we can appreciate the kingdom that is to come. And there's heaven here, there's hell here, but there's mainly beauty that we can find in all of it, because all things give glory to God. And like you said, I mean, film gives glory to God in a very specific way. I mean, yeah, we have stories to tell around the bonfire, and this is just another way to tell a story. And I appreciate everything that you've said. I mean, this is absolutely a vocation, and this is a special calling for people who aren't faint of heart. And so I just want to say how much I appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew, do you have any closing words to our audience? And then where can people see some of your work?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really would especially like to encourage anyone who's watching who is kind of on the fence, or like if they feel a tug in their heart. I remember a friend inviting me to visit LA was sort of honestly, it was a conversation that changed my life, even though it didn't seem so at the time. But, like making that jump was the start of so much. So, if there's any young students out there or anyone who wants to be in drama or film or theater, like I really want to encourage them. It's a wonderful, beautiful path.
Yeah.
I was watching an interview with Tolkien the other day, and he was like, somebody asked him that, like, why did you write these books? He was like, I can't, like, we're called to be co-creators. Like, I have to create. I just have to be like God.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so I just, I really, the next generation, I mean, I'm not that old, but I mean, becoming artists, I really want to encourage them to put their own voice out there.
I mean, you're not exactly 20 anymore, right?
Grapple with this. My work, they can find my book, A Tyranny of Kindness. It's a sci-fi. It's on Amazon. And, keep your eye out in the theaters. Hopefully a couple movies coming your way. So
Awesome.
Absolutely.
I like the Cortez idea. I have to say something at least.
Michael, you're here.
Yeah, I was just teaching about Cortez like a couple weeks ago. So that's a really difficult story, a crazy story, but also I think one that has a lot of dynamics to it. So that'll be something I'm sure you'll enjoy writing about.
Yeah, it's awesome. Love tackling all sorts of aspects of life. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Best wishes and all that you do.
God bless. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.